first numbered highways in America. It spanned from San Diego, California to Savannah, Georgia. We begin just outside of San Diego in Descanso, California. This portion of the road was built in 1917. It's a great starting point because you can see one of the original bridges built in 1917. You can't drive on this portion of the road anymore, but it makes a great hike. Be sure to check out the ghostly live oak trees that are abundant. Next up on the itinerary is the ghost town of Buckman Springs. Amos Buckman was an eccentric explorer who capitalized on the naturally carbonated mineral water in the area. This was his bottling plant. Across the street, you can see the ruins of the original Buckman homestead. When they were building the new Highway 8, they accidentally unearthed Amos Buckman's grave. Instead of moving him, they just built the fence around him. If you have some time, you can poke around the desert and possibly find his grave. Next up is the ghost town of Bankhead Springs. A lot of people seem to find this interesting. I don't really get it. There were a lot of no trespassing signs, so it didn't really seem worth the time. Leaving the ghost town of Bankhead Springs on the way to the living ghost town of Jacumba, you come right smack face into the border wall. On one side of the border, you have Jacumba, American city. On the other side of the border wall, you have Jacum, which is a Mexican city. And those two cities have been working as sister cities for probably centuries. You have some families that live some on one side and some on the other side. So now they put a wall in, and in order to get to the other side, there's no port of entry, so you actually have to go all the way to San Ysidro. And it's like a 3-hour drive as opposed to what used to be only 5 minutes. If you tried crossing over from Jacum to Jacumba, it is the most dangerous way to cross the border. You are coming into just vast desert, and there are no supplies, there are no cities or people, or you're just coming into the desert with nothing but what's on your back. So some people go out here and hike this portion of Highway 80 and leave bottles of water around for any of the people coming over dying of thirst. This was the bathhouse. In the 1920s and 30s, it was a popular place for Hollywood elite to hang out. It's burned down a few times, I think, but they still use it today as a Hollywood backdrop for some movies. I assume these are the handprints of small Jacumba children trapped inside the walls. Across the street is the site of the original Hotel Vaughn. This also caught on fire, and all that remains is the fireplace, ironically. As we make our way through Boulder Park, probably named for all of the boulders, we come to one of my favorite desert stops. Coyote's UFO Repair Shop.
Go.
Coyote, is that a real flying saucer?
What?
Is that a real flying saucer?
Oh, there's nothing to see here. It's just, it's just a weather balloon. You move along. Nothing to see here. It's just a weather balloon. Nothing suspicious goes on here.
Last on the itinerary is the Desert Watchtower. This was basically built as a tourist trap. In the 1920s and 30s, cars couldn't make it across the terrain the way they could now. They needed somewhere to cool down. So the Desert Tower was happy to take your money while you did that. You can hear how crazy the wind is up here and see the Mars-like terrain.